四つ葉のクローバー見つけた。私も。ゆきちゃん、何か見つけた？ほら！
戯れに青大将を腕に巻きつけたりするような女の子は私の他にはいないということ。
Wolf Children is a Japanese animation that came out in 2012 that's written and directed by Mamoru Hosoda. So Wolf Children was the subscriber poll winner, which means that all of my lovely Kino Lords out there are responsible for picking this film for me to watch and review. And for those who don't know that these polls exist, which I've gotten some messages saying that like they had no idea this thing exists, every month I put out a subscriber poll, so be on the lookout for that. Obviously this one's over, but look out next month in April for the next subscriber poll. Either way, just to get this right out of the gate, I gotta kind of get something off my chest. So, anime and Japanese animation is something that I really have not been a huge fan of over the past decade or so. I mean, I was huge into anime when I was in middle school. Like, I lived and breathed anime for like 3 or 4 years. I mean, all I did for 3 or 4 years was read manga, watch anime series, and play Yu-Gi-Oh! But when I got into high school, I definitely started just watching more live-action films. And I just started going down that road, and once you go down that road, you really don't look back. But, yeah, so for the past decade, anime is something that I just really haven't been able to get into, and I have my fair share of reasons as to why that is. But, obviously, I'm somebody that is able to keep an open mind. I'm very capable of that. So, with all that being said, after seeing Wolf Children, I'm going to be 100% honest, I didn't really like this film. I mean, I didn't hate it, but I also didn't really like it. I found it quite difficult for me to feel truly invested and engaged in this film. Not saying that there aren't a handful of things that I actually did appreciate and I did like. Which I guess I'll start with that first because, you know, it's better to start with the positives and the negatives. But I did like the way that the children characters in this film developed. I thought their dynamic was really interesting because they kind of have this, like, role reversal as they grow up to where one of them is essentially, like, has a really hard time embracing their inner, like, animalistic wolf type of instincts, and the other one just goes off the rails with it. But as they get older, you know, it kind of flip-flops, and I kind of like how the film explored that because it was something that I really didn't see coming. It kind of subverted my expectations there. And I also liked the character Ame. And, you know, it's probably just because of the fact that he was a really, like, dialed back character. Even though, like, his character isn't the most original, I did like that his character felt very reserved and kind of builds up to something that is a lot more layered and complex. And also the animation in this film is undeniably beautiful. This film is quite stunning to look at. Basically every frame of this film is animated beautifully, framed beautifully. It's just a really easy film to look at just because of how well produced it is. And I also liked the goal of this film because, in my opinion, the goal of this film is to kind of explore the responsibilities that come with single motherhood and just, you know, how difficult it is to deal with your children growing up, knowing when to let go and knowing when to protect, and you know, just a lot of the complexities that come with being a single mother and really just being a parent in general. And I like the way most of that is explored in this film. But honestly, I think like that's where most of the positives kind of end. And really, like, the best way I can kind of describe why I didn't really feel that invested or that engaged in this film was best put by one of my patrons and Discord chat friends named Charlotte Sometimes. She put it beautifully and I feel like describes the exact reason why I couldn't really get into this film. And it's basically just the fact that I feel like this film focused a lot on being an anime first and then a film second. And when I say that it focused on being an anime first, I mean that a lot of this film kind of captured and embodied a lot of what makes it difficult for me to enjoy anime now. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I feel like a lot of the characters are overly expressive. The kind of music and the kind of presentation feels rather fluffy, and it doesn't feel, just in general, it doesn't really feel all that genuine and authentic. It feels very like fantasy and a bit over the top, just in terms of, again, like the way the story is presented, the way emotions are expressed. And what kind of makes it a bit more aggravating is that this film obviously doesn't want you to view this film as just a fantasy and like just as an anime. Because the very first words that are uttered in this film are said by a character, and she basically says like, yeah, this is a story that anyone could easily pass off as just a fantasy. And I'm like, okay, let's see where you go with that. But the film, I feel like in its overall presentation, feels like a fantasy. Really, this film doesn't feel as grounded as I think it wanted it to be. And that's something that really kind of took me out. And that's just because, again, I feel like it falls into what at least a lot of what modern animes do, which is honestly just have a lack of subtlety, whether it's due to dialogue or whether it's just conveying anything in the film. A lot of it is just very blatant and, very obvious and spoon-fed to you. And even like with the music, like I just feel like is a bit overbearing and again doesn't really allow the audience to feel something for themselves, and really it tries to reinforce an emotion. And that's something that, again, like I really had trouble getting into. And also I'm sorry to say, but that wolf transformation scene, like in the first act of the film, it just didn't work for me. It just, for the reasons as I stated, like it just felt really fluffy. It felt really like butterflies and rainbows. And I get that not every depiction of a wolf transformation on film has to be like this. But if the film is truly going for something that wants to feel grounded and real, I just feel like that was not the way to do it, because it just feels like it's honestly just pandering to like the teenage girl fantasy. And then we also get a scene where she actually has sex with him in his wolf form. And I just thought that was quite unnecessary, because it's like, I get like what it's trying to do is trying to, do that whole classic, love has no boundaries type of thing. But first of all, it does have boundaries. And secondly, it just seems like really unnecessary. Like it just looks like it's a furry's wet dream. I don't really like it when any film does that. I didn't like it when The Shape of Water did that either. I wasn't a fan of that approach at all. But I mean, yeah, like it's stuff like that, to where I felt like the presentation of this film just overall, whether it's the music or the dialogue or the way that the characters express themselves, felt like it was definitely trying to approach this as an anime, which, in terms of modern anime, conventionally speaking, isn't really the most grounded. It's very over the top, it's very exaggerated, it's quite cartoony, and I kind of got this vibe from this film pretty much the entire runtime, which really made it difficult for me to feel invested and really buy everything that's happening. It didn't really reach that level of authenticity as much as it wanted to, and that's pretty much like the big reason as to why I really couldn't get into this film. And look, I know I said like I'm not really huge into anime and Japanese animation, but there are some Japanese animated films that I truly love. Princess Mononoke is like in my top 5 favorite animated films ever made. I love that film, and a lot of that is because even though like the world feels really fantastical and feels really otherworldly, it still manages to feel like really genuine and grounded. And I mean, that almost goes for any Miyazaki film, really. But even I just recently saw Belladonna of Sadness, which I haven't done a review. I'm gonna do that soon, I promise. But like, I really liked that film a lot. Spoiler alert, I really liked it quite a bit. And I felt like if Wolf Children just kind of dialed it back a bit, then I feel like I would have enjoyed it more. Grave of the Fireflies, another great Japanese animation that obviously just like, due to its context and its setting, is gonna be grounded. But that's a film that absolutely tore me to pieces. And I feel like if this film, Wolf Children, wanted to be taken as seriously as a film like that, I felt like it could have been presented to you more like as an actual, like, genuine film rather than an anime. But as I said, I don't dislike this movie. I just don't really recommend it. I didn't like it all that much for all the reasons that I said. There are things about this film that I did appreciate, obviously, as I stated. But overall, it just really didn't click for me. So I'm going to give Wolf Children a 5 out of 10. I'm not gonna lie, it was incredibly difficult to prepare myself for this review because I know that a lot of people really love this film. And y'all voted for it, and it really pained me to come out and tell you guys that I really didn't enjoy it. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it is how I honestly feel. But I mean, on the bright side, Belladonna of Sadness came second place in that poll, and I haven't done a review obviously yet, as I stated, but spoiler alert, I did enjoy that film quite a bit, so I cannot wait to talk about that film with you guys. But yeah, either way, those are my general thoughts on Wolf Children. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about it, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.